But the four themes that came out in Vice President Harris's speech, and mind you, she did not write the speech. The white power structure does not leave speech writing to the politicians for president. Let us be clear. She did not write the speech. She gave the speech. So when you're analyzing and evaluating, when you're trying to understand, overstand, and understand Vice President Harris's words, you have to think about the power structure who wrote the speech, the messages they wanted to give to the American people, and the messages, more importantly, that they did not want to give to the American African people. Let me say that again. Shout out to the Virgos. I understand we in Virgo season, but I'm still rocking my Leo colors. Michelle Obama is not a candidate for president. Like I said, presidential candidates do not write their own speeches when it comes to speaking at their respective parties' national convention. Please improve your listening comprehension skills. Please improve your listening comprehension skills. Please improve your listening comprehension skills.
I know what y'all say, certain
So
things.
what were the messages that the white power structure put into Vice President Harris's speech? A couple of messages. Number one, immigrants are the future of America. That's number one. Oh, yes.
That's true.
People of color are the future of America. People of color does not include black. People of color is a code word that we're talking to all non-black people of color.
That is absolutely true. And it kind of is justified if you're trying to reach the entirety or the majority of America, because again, they say that we're still 13.6% of the population. And so, of course, they're going to say people of color, because America, even if you identify as white, is majority a melting pot now. Even JD Vance's wife is Indian, so of course they're going to speak to who it is that they think that they can get the vote from. And that's another reason why I'm wondering, because I don't really care for the whole black trope or whatever. I don't even care about the whole people of color thing. It's so stupid to me. It's dumb. But you got to speak to what people identify as. And I wish people just identified as Americans instead of people of color, because then you could have a real conversation based off of the policies and not the identity politics. But he's absolutely right in that, even though, it's a lot of spitting going on the screen, it's a lot of jabbing, it's a lot of all of this, it's a lot of three times repeating, because they know you want the logic of it is that it reprograms your brain and all of this other stuff. Listen, I don't care about all of that. But as far as his first point, haven't gotten to the other points, he's 100% right. People of color, which include immigrants into this country, I think is one of the plays is which why they're trying to sway and then have illegal immigrants then vote and become documented instead of undocumented in the United States of America, so that they'll always be endearing to the political party that opened up the borders for them.
So that's number one. People of color are not included in the future. Excuse me. People of color are the future of America. American Africans are not.
Mm-hmm.
People of color are the future of America, but American Africans are not.
That way.
Didn't you find how strategically they played to black people? They had a black anchor. They had a black band. They had Al Sharpton. They had my beautiful sister, Carrie
Which used to be one of Trump's good friends. Fat Al Sharpton.
Washington, who's a fabulous orator. A fabulous orator, but a Democratic Party plantation slave nonetheless, but a fabulous orator. They had D.L. Hughley come on out there.
No, I feel about
They had the Central Park Five come on out there. They played to black people's emotions very well.
Which is so funny about the Central Park Five, because They so worried about what Trump thinks instead of being or having all of that smoke for the judge that sentenced them or for the district attorney that prosecuted them. But that's for another day. Shout out to the Simpin Park Five.
Well, they played to black people's emotions very well. They played to black people's emotions very well, but they strategically and effectively did not discuss black people at all. Are you feeling me? Where my deep thinkers at? This is a message for deep thinking Africans. Emotional plantation party members, get off the feed right now. This is not a conversation for Democratic Party plantation slaves. This is a conversation for independent African thinkers. This is a live for independent African thinkers. If you are not an independent African thinker, you don't want to hear this message. If you are not an independent African thinker, you don't want to hear this message. If you are not an independent African thinker, you don't want to hear this message. The imagery was all for black people. The imagery was all for black people. The imagery was all for black people. The messages were completely devoid of anything relevant to black people. They used the imagery to appeal to Africans. The message was completely irrelevant to American Africans. Kind of reminds me of the last Transformers movie. It kind of reminds me of the last Transformers movie where they played hip hop music throughout the whole movie. Rise of the Beasts. Rise of the Beast. They played all black hip hop music in the last Transformers movie, but the main character was a person of color. The main character was a person of color. There were almost no black people in the movie. The sidekick sister was in the movie. The beautiful African sister was in the movie, but outside of her, there were hardly any black people in Transformers, but they played hip hop music through the whole movie. So if you are not a deep thinker, you will think Transformers had a bunch of...
This is not a deep thought. This is just kind of surface level. Everybody knows that. Even during the CNN interview, she wouldn't identify herself as black. She just said next question. So it's not a deep thought. This is not groundbreaking, but I'm trying to let him get to his second point or third or fourth.
black actors, but it only had one black actor, but they played hip hop music. The Democratic National Convention, they used black music. They played Beyonce. They had a black band. They had Al Sharpton, D.L. Hughley, the Central Park Five, but no messages for black people in Kamala Harris's speech. No messages for black people in Kamala Harris's speech. No message.
To be fair, though, she didn't have any message for anybody because a lot of it was just a pep rally, and there was no real substance to the speech except for to say some of the same things that she's saying on all of these campaign stops. But it pandered to the people, so I'm assuming that people found it effective.
Just for black people in Kamala Harris' speech, what you heard was immigrants over and over again. Her Indian mother, who raised her after separating from her father, she bigged up immigrants. She bigged up immigrants.
That is absolutely true.
Barack Obama bigged up the rainbow. Joe Biden bigged up the rainbow. Kamala Harris is bigging up the immigrant. Black people, we're done.
Barack Obama, and it's the thing that's so funny about him, is because when he came up for his speech and he talked along with Michelle Obama, black people celebrated, and I looked at the comments and they talked about how smooth he was and how he was grand right and all of this stuff. We so idiotic and immature, especially our women. They fall right for the okey doke, hook, line, and sinker every single time. And he's right. Not only did his speech, but also his legacy is largely tied to what he did for the alphabet community. He's 100% correct.
Black people, we are done unless we decide to save ourselves. I want y'all to hear me tonight. Kamala Harris made sure not to touch on anything that matters to black people. Kamala Harris made sure not to touch on anything that matters to black people. Her message was clear. Immigrants are the future. Immigrants are the
And
future of
she's right
America,
too. She
which
might be
makes
right.
sense because white people are losing their numbers. Which makes sense because white people are losing their numbers.
All right, I can only do so many things. I don't think that white people are losing their numbers because white people could be, I mean, if they just wanted to identify themselves from that lens and vote based off of that perspective, they could be the ones, or they would be the ones that swing the election every single year. But so many white people then identify themselves as liberal. They identify themselves as a part of the alphabet community. They label themselves as progressive. They label themselves as simps. And so, you know, everybody grouped themselves differently now. And the main ones that group themselves that I hear overtly, verbally, is black people. Black people are the ones a lot of times that say she's not doing anything for, or he's not doing anything, or what are they gonna do? And so that's a pretty interesting dynamic. Make sure y'all tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description. Obviously, the best time to join the Patreon is the beginning of the month, and so it's so much vibes in there. It's Stock Club is coming up this weekend. You can look at any of the most recent videos that's been dropped, and you can see why there's so much value to be had, and you need to be running it up. You're wasting your time if you're not running it up. So that's popping. Make sure y'all get that Teach Henley 40% off your first order plus 20% off of life. I love you. I appreciate you. I'm looking forward to see what y'all say inside of the comments.